our recent theme has been restoring our wholeness. So, just to review, it's a big, broad idea, concept, but really recognizing the fact that we are all pulled in way too many directions. We are fragmented off. We are broken apart. We are, or at least feeling that way, internally and externally. Our systems represent this. Our internal systems are feeling that. They're feeling the lack of wholeness. Do I feel like my whole self? Do I feel like I can bring all of me to the table? Do I feel like I even know what all of me is and all the different resources and aspects of me that I could have access to? For a lot of different reasons this happens. We've began, um, we've begun talking about that and pulling that apart more to really understand what has happened. This is something that has traversed long periods of time, and just perpetuated over millennia of just feeling separated from different qualities that we have and different resources that we have. So today I want to focus a little bit on a specific area, which is expectations. It's a bigger topic. I'm going to break it down a little bit, but I don't want to spend a ton of time on it. There's going to be a lot of questions. Really, I'm giving the basics and some framework for this so that you can take it and you can run with it. And you can really then self-reflect and think about, how does this apply to me? Where does this show up? It's an idea that can be really obvious and apparent to us in a clear way at times, and it's also something that can hide and be more behind the scenes or subtle, and it can show up in places that you're not necessarily knowing what to name that. My advice to anyone who's heard me talk to them, for any length of time, has probably heard me say at some point, we would all benefit greatly from eliminating all of our expectations altogether. Expectations are invented. It's not a natural occurring emotion or feeling or thing that happens with us. It does not follow universal law. And part of restoring wholeness is coming back to what are our laws of nature? What are the basic human nature qualities and things that we have within ourselves that we're not we're not capitalizing on, or we don't even remember or realize are there. And then what have we replaced that empty space with? And expectations is a huge one. My advice, again, eliminate all expectations of yourself, of everyone else, of a situation. Now, usually when I say that, people look at me like I, have lost my mind at first, because they don't even understand. A lot of resistance generally will come up, a lot of fear around, well, what happens if I do that? So let's break it down a little bit. We are all putting very unrealistic expectations on all three of those things, probably primarily ourselves, right? Certainly of things outside of our control, which is other people and situations. We don't have as much as of the controls as we would like to, as we think we do, as we've convinced ourselves we do. And expectations are nothing more than judgments. So if we are expecting something, right, whether it's us, another person, or situation, we are judging what should happen, how somebody should show up, how we should show up, or how we think we're going to feel at an unknown time, at a future date that hasn't happened yet. And these are not predictions that we can really make, not truly. We can try, but the reality is that doesn't happen. And all we're doing is setting up ourselves and everyone else to feel a whole lot of pressure, to feel disappointed when it doesn't work the way we decided that it needed to work, and judged how it needed to play out. So, expectations, judgments, and opinions are all really at their core the same thing, showing up in a different form. And I think that's important to know for this self-reflective process, because if we don't see that they're all kind of the same thing, that's where it can hide and get more subtle and even a little sophisticated at times. There are also parts of us that are going to be really resistant to what I'm saying. They're going to be either fearful or they're going to push back and say, well, what if, or what happens when? Some of the common things that I hear are worried that if I don't have an expectation, let's start with us, of myself, then I'm never going to aspire to anything. I'm never going to try to achieve anything. And what is happening is we are denying our true nature, which is growing, expanding, learning, achieving, right? Not for the sake of our self-worth, not for the pride somebody else might have in us, because it just feels good and we like it. That is actually everyone's true nature. That's human nature's true nature. And we have imposed this expectation thing on ourselves for so long that we don't even remember that it is our natural state to want to keep growing and learning and expanding. We don't need rules and regulations to do that. And what we're doing is we're actually suppressing that, because when we put the expectation on that, and then it feels like pressure, then it feels heavy, it feels burdensome, and that creates a whole lot of resistance. That creates, um, a whole lot of mechanisms that, I don't want to take the time to go into, but you can imagine, right? It's the difference of, if I want to do something and I feel, energetic about it and passionate or excited, and I will go do that. If somebody tells me to do it, I'm going to pump the brakes, right? Even if I want to do it, I'm still going to hesitate. I'm going to pull back because now someone else is trying to impose it on me. And the same thing happens, even if we're only talking about the self at first, right? That we're imposing expectations on ourselves, it's still going to feel like pressure, right? As opposed to something that is building momentum, that is building and being generated and lifting us up. It's going to feel like something is pushing us down, mostly because expectations are embedded with usually negative self-talk. They're embedded with the unrealistic sort of, loftiness that isn't really realistic, to like, let's just do our best and see how far we can get, and then we'll do it again, and then we'll push further, and then we'll keep going. We're generating our own natural momentum when we do that, as opposed to something coming and weighing us. You have to do this. You must do this. You should. Should is the key word here. Those will not work. They will be, I mean, you could still get there, but with what heaviness, right? And how much did that hold you back? And how much did that actually restrict what you could have brought into it by putting that pressure on? The pressure shouldn't be coming from here with expectation. It should be coming from here to lift us up with positive, motivating, inspiring types of things, right? And that's the other big thing that I hear is, well, then I'm not going to have goals, right? I'm not going to set goals for myself. Again, not true. It's our nature to keep setting goals and then keep achieving those. And then, okay, what's next? And what's next? That is forward movement. And that is what we're all naturally inclined to do. And so you can have goals. Goals and expectations are not the same thing. Have a goal, but allow yourself to get as far as you can with it. Allow yourself to do your best. Allow yourself to be sick or need rest, or, have something that impedes your ability to do it in the time frame that the expectation has established. If you eliminate the expectation piece, you can be free to do that however you need to, and how whatever's naturally occurring in the process. And in the big picture, we will get further faster when we take off the expectation and we just self-motivate, we cheerlead, we inspire ourselves, we look to inspirational resources outside of us to build us up and propel us forward. All of that applies to other people too. When we impose expectations on other people, we know what it feels like when they impose expectations on us. It feels heavy, it feels burdensome. So now you have two parties feeling the pressure of that when that's happening. You're you're feeling it yourself when you're imposing an expectation. That's a heavy thing to be carrying and bringing with you to the other person, and they're going to feel some amount of that as well. So if we can just allow everyone to be where they are at, right? We can hope for something, we can have a goal, we can voice those things like, right, I'm really hoping for this. What the expectation does when it's in relation to another person is it completely pulls us out of our ability to be compassionate and understanding of they may not have been able to do that at that point. They may have other things on their plate. They might not be able to show up for us in the way that we need them to. That doesn't mean they're not going to. That doesn't mean they're not going to try, but they're going to do it if they do it, or to some degree are able to. They're going to do it with that pressure, and it's not going to feel as good to them because now someone's imposing that on them. And again, that doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good when you're being forced to do something rather than I'm doing this because I want to. And how are we going to know their true intentions when we're expecting it of them? They're showing up out of obligation, not out of their own free will of, this is what I want to be doing. We're creating unhealthy dynamics. We're creating these sort of negative tug of war and push and pull when we're bringing these expectations into the picture. We can invite anyone to rise to an occasion. We can invite anyone to show up for us, but we can't require that they do it. And what we're doing is we're trying to deny nature, which is free will. Let people choose. You get to choose, they get to choose. Everybody wins. Everybody will feel better. And for any fear thoughts that might be telling you, well, then nobody's going to do anything, everyone's going to be apathetic, those are not the truth. They're not ever the truth. They will not ever be the truth. It's a fear, it's not truth. Those are two different things. And so if we could be willing to suspend the disbelief that that's what's going to happen, not over anticipate. We haven't really practiced this. Our society just perpetuates this over and over again. And so we haven't really had the chance to actually all together put this into practice in a much bigger way, right? We could create a movement here, not just restoring our wholeness. This is a piece of it. This is coming back to our true nature, which is what the restore wholeness idea is all about, is coming back to ourselves, allowing our free will, allowing our free momentum and self-generated energy and intentions that we're bringing into something and purpose. If everything is coming from our natural state, we are all better for it. It benefits everyone and everything. I mean, this could really begin a wave of immeasurable benefits for everybody. And so the same applies when we're talking about a situation. We often are focused on the result and the outcome, right? This is what I want to happen. But again, we've judged how it's supposed to play out. We don't leave any room for surprise or excitement about the surprise. Our anxiety, it is anxious thoughts that want to anticipate what's going to happen, how it's going to play out. I need to know. I want this predictable. If we can reel that back in a little bit, we can see that, we can't plan all of those things. Again, we don't have that predictability um, ability to, decide how everything, there's too many moving parts going on there. We can't make those decisions for ourselves or anyone else or just a situation in general. Things happen. And sometimes, I would say all the time, but I'll play the resistance for a little bit. Things often happen better than we could have planned in the first place when we just loosen our grip. When we're trying to hold the reins so tight and we're trying to say, okay, I want to make sure this desired result happens, we're actually limiting what can happen. We're all of a sudden creating a tiny little tunnel of possibilities rather than a big wide open space of incredible possibilities of what could show up for us. And it's always going to be to our benefit, always. When we can learn to just be in the flow of, I'm going to move in this direction because it feels right. I'm going to try to do this thing, but I'm open to whatever happens. It doesn't mean we don't set goals. It doesn't mean we don't hope for something. But don't forget, like the steps of the process, that's where it's at. That's where we're learning. That's where we're growing. That's where we're expanding. And that's why we're doing this in the first place. It's not just to achieve a thing and get a result. This isn't supposed to be results based. This is supposed to be experience based. And we have stopped experiencing anything, we're just focused on. And then 9 times out of 10, it doesn't turn out the way we had, like, okay, it has to be this way, and this is the result I want. And then when that doesn't happen, we're crushed, we're devastated, right? We're disappointed, we're broken down. And all we did was just set ourselves up for that in the first place. We didn't need to go through that cycle of emotions and that roller coaster of emotions because we didn't need to stack the deck or decide how everything needed to be in the first place. I mean, if you want to take this a step further, I would say really take a look at how many things you think you need to have an opinion about, right? Because having an opinion is having a judgment, is having an expectation. They are the three-headed monster, I call it, and they're just different forms of the same thing. We're doing way too much deciding. And then we're going around wondering why I'm tired, why I can't sleep, why I'm not rested, why I have running thoughts all the time, why I just feel so depleted, going through the motions and on autopilot. We're running all of these things in the background without even realizing it, without even questioning it. And most of the time, if we are aware of it, we're just thinking that's what's supposed to be, or it's justified, or, it's normalized to us. All of that can be undone. You would gain back so much more energy than you can even imagine. We don't even realize how much is going into those inner workings until we start to pull them back and realize how much better we feel, how much freer we feel. This is our imprisonment. We have imprisoned ourselves and we have the key. We can unimprison ourselves. We can release ourselves from this jail that is completely self-imposed just by questioning how much we're really doing this. So I certainly welcome questions because I'm sure that there are a lot. There always are when I talk about this. I would love to hear them. I would love to engage in that with anybody. If people feel like they don't have to be in therapy sessions. If you want a coaching session around something like this, that's also, something I can provide. If you want to do one of the classes that I have, I can do online classes and in-person ones. So depending where you are and what's convenient, this can become a bigger conversation. I wrote a blog about it. So, if you prefer that to read and really absorb information that way, check it all out, read it, reread it, watch this and rewatch it because it's a lot to take in and it's a completely new lens for most of us with which to understand ourselves or really, really take a look at, what does this mean for me and how am I using this in my life? So I look forward to hearing from anybody. I hope this is helpful and I'll be in touch soon. Bye.